Good morning, everybody. It's my distinct pleasure to open up the Pitch Global event today, which is, as you see, an online event. We have very distinct speakers from Honda, Accelerator Ventures, from Mitsubishi. We have Tenacity Ventures today, all present. We have interesting companies with great stories. And Casey, thank you so much for the great opportunity. And I will open up the floor now for you.
Great. Thank you, Axel. By the way, we are now Pitch Global Group, where we have expanded footprint. We consist of Pitch Global, which has morphed into CVC Accelerator, backed almost a decade by funding and mentoring agencies of California government. We have companies who has gone through us, has raised $1 billion over the last 10 years, and 60% of it is verified from companies we are mentoring through California government. And we have some of them here and very battle-hardened companies. We also have started Silicon Valley Access PTE in Singapore with two very distinguished co-founders, one of whom is going to give briefly opening remarks right now. She is Sharon Sim, PR tech serial entrepreneur with Exit to Interpublic, and her family owns a boutique investment bank, which has long-term clients like CEOs of Grasshopper Asia, which trades $1 billion a day. All these people Axel interviewed in our launch event recently, and they are on our website. So Sharon, if you have logged in, thank you for taking the time from running your event with Taiwanese government. I know one of the event had 10,000 people and ministers. And before you tell us, why don't you briefly talk about your experience with the CEO of Isan Bank? How did you help him? And then invite everybody to Super Return Week.
Isan Bank is one of Taiwan's largest publicly traded banks. And as you know, there's so much activities going on between Asia and US, in particular with Taiwan in the last few years. They have, I'm sure if you've been following news about TSMC, about Phoenix, and also a lot of activities in Dallas. So Isan had a bank for a long time in the LA area, but not so much in the Texas area. So they just because of all the business coming into to invest in the US from Taiwan, they've decided to also open a branch in Dallas. So that's the very first Taiwanese bank in the Texas Dallas area. So then my agency, my day job is as a marketing agency owner and founder. So we successfully launched them last year. So they'll be doing a lot more work here, but also all over Asia as well. They also have an investment arm that are growing very nicely, partly because there's just so much activity with the semiconductor space and the AI boom.
Great. And Ben Narrison here is a fintech guru, taken Lending Tree and all public, early investor when he was in NEA. So that's a connect. Get Isan Bank's chairman for Super Return Week. And Ben Wood, we can do a panel with both of them. Okay, now let's hear the invite.
Okay, so like Casey said, we launched Silicon Valley Access this year, and it's been really fun. There is definitely a lot of hunger among VCs, among startups who want to find more connection, find more deal flow, investments to and fro, right? Because this is a truly global world now. So Super Return is happening first week of October, and that will also be our in-person event in Singapore. So we definitely invite all of you to join us in person if possible. It will be really fun. It will, as you know, Super Returns is very big in Singapore and Asia, but it's also really expensive. So we're doing at least a couple of side events that will partner with. We have very strong local connections. I'm Singaporean. I grew up there, and we have family and business contacts that are helping us, that we're partnering with to put this event together. Everyone from CVCs to investors will be there, and there's always a place for startups. That's where it all starts.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce someone whose just presence raises the stature of our event. This is someone who has been involved with multiple IPOs, was partner of NEA when they were the biggest VC firm in the world or Silicon Valley. And he's so passionate about early stage and startups. He gave all that up to start Tenacity Ventures, and he's such a global person. He's always ready to go to Mexico, to wherever, and carry Silicon Valley's flag as Silicon Valley's unofficial brand ambassador. So someone who's been in our life for over 5 6 years or more, 6 years. And my pleasure to introduce the legendary Ben Narrison. Floor is yours.
Thank you. No, very nice you always give me an overly kind welcome. Um, I would say that while Silicon Valley has been the undisputed capital of innovation and entrepreneurship for as long as I can remember, and I have literally traveled around the world speaking on this topic about, a lot of folks want to be the next Silicon Valley, and obviously, France, you had an entire.
Great. Ben, we'll ask you one last question. We are promoting SF as an investment destination because SF Mayor, CA government, they all are doing that. Mayor was in Korea and China recently for that. Now we have launched in Asia with there were BlackRock, there were Deutsche Bank, family offices. They're all in our video we have come out. So we are working with someone trying to figure out how to launch in LATAM. He's here, and you've met him in our event, Freddie Saba, who used to run BBVA, an amazing thought leader in AI and all. So, can you give some insights, guidance on what we should do to attract LATAM startups to relocate to San Francisco?
Well, I think there's two intermingled points there. There's San Francisco versus California, and then there's the LATAM question. So
Northern
firstly,
California. See
I
the
think
funniness
Daniel
of Northern
Laurie is
California.
doing a great job with San Francisco. San Francisco is the shining star in California right now for a government that's actually paying attention and doing things that can be effective, sometimes making hard decisions, but making life better. So that's a positive. That's a huge positive. Um, Secondly, San Francisco has become the hub of Silicon Valley. If you go back in time, sort of 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was really where I live, around Stanford. I live in Atherton, but there's Palo Alto, Menlo Park, Mountain View. Now, a lot of that was based on the fact that these were hardware companies. As more and more software companies developed and more app companies developed, more and more people ended up in San Francisco. It's a younger founder group. Their audiences in San Francisco. I still remember having this conversation with a founder 10, 15 years ago. He was running a social app and he's like, well, we're really struggling to decide whether we should be based in Mountain View like everybody else was or move to San Francisco. And I'm like, isn't your app for young people? It's like, yes. Wouldn't you want to be amongst them? Wouldn't you want to actually be able to go out and touch your users and find out what they're doing? Like, why would you be in Mountain View with married families? Like, go to San Francisco. So, San Francisco is a very vibrant community, A, for startups in general, but B, for AI. I mean, it is the epicenter of the entire planet. So, that's good. Now, what I have noticed about LATAM on the LP side, they're sort of 20 years behind or more what a US LP would be in terms of their understanding of private equity markets. They're not, look, net, the evolution of wealth investment goes like this. Make a lot of money, put it in treasuries and S&P or the equivalent, and then get adventurous and invest in real estate. Now, after you do that for a while, you can get even more aggressive and invest in hotels, a form of real estate. So I've noticed that the vast majority of the LATAM capital is tied up in real estate related investing. There's not much of it exposed to private equity at all. On the entrepreneur side, it comes down to the question of the market they're serving. So as an example, my single most successful company right now in terms of valuation and growth went from 2.2 million when I invested in them roughly 5 years ago to currently over $600 million of annualized revenue, is a Mexico-based fintech, but they serve Mexico and will grow to expand. They also serve Colombia, and they'll grow to expand other areas of LATAM. So there's not really a motivation for them to come to San Francisco. They did talk about doing more US stuff, which I helped them see probably wasn't the right expansive move right now, although cross-border makes sense, payments and remittances. But it will depend on what those LATAM companies' focus is. If their focus is to be a global player, well, have they conquered LATAM already? Or is that going to be their first step or steps? Because if it is, it's tough to convince them they should come here. Now, obviously, you're going to get better talent overall just because the concentration of talent, from all over the world ends up here. However, it's much more expensive. I'm not giving you necessarily just pluses for look, it's an epicenter of quality of talent, yes. But if they're not ready to expand into the US, I'm not quite sure why they would have a motivation to be here. Now, if they're a fintech business, then their question will be, is it San Francisco or is it New York? But if it's an AI business, so as an example, I was down in LATAM quite a bit last year. I probably went half a dozen times or more. And I would see these pitches for blah, blah, blah AI. I was like, well, you're blah, blah, blah AI for Mexico. Why would anybody buy blah, blah, blah AI for Mexico? And they can just buy OpenAI or ChatGPT or or Claude, whatever. They're going to use the best quality product. So I think to compete in the AI ecosystem, you have to be world-class, best global product. And if that's what that entrepreneur wants to be, then look, there's businesses I think make sense building out regionally. AI is probably not one of them. Others, it really just depends on what they're doing. And so the question becomes, what's the unique value proposition they're bringing that justifies them coming to the US? And then if they're coming to the US, if it's all around technology, then yes, San Francisco would be the place. I mean, you have something to promote. So I think it's a question not of just how you promote it, which is around the best quality of technology talent and AI talent in the world, but who you promote it to. Because it's not going to be just LATAM writ large. Because if you said to me, Ben, I really wish your, Capital, your fintech company would move to San Francisco, I'd say, I think there's literally zero reason they should. Like they're absolutely crushing it in Mexico and they're going to continue to crush it across LATAM. It would be a huge distraction. But if you were talking about, there's a different company I met, which was doing a fintech play, which was doing AI-based underwriting and review of all contracts. So as an example, with private credit, people are very concerned about the quality of the underlying assets. So you could have millions of assets, hundreds of thousands of assets, basically you're buying up a bunch of invoices, let's say. And no company can effectively go through all the details of that. So they can use AI to do that. They have a global desire. They started in Colombia, they moved to Mexico, but they really want to do this global, and they're already starting to get global clients. That would be an example where I think would make a lot of sense for them to move because their offering is valuable across any country or company or industry as long as it's tied to credit facilities and things that have been, securitized and resold. And so their clients could be just as easily be a Goldman Sachs as they could be a BBVA or anybody else, or Banco, Popular. So I think as long as the value proposition makes sense as a global offer, or as long as their value proposition is developed enough in LATAM that they want to move into the US, then it makes sense if they're centering around technology talent.
Great. The same Silicon Valley Funding Week, which Silicon Valley Access Week, Singapore, we are gonna do in San Francisco on week of 13th October, and that's TechCrunch and Semicon West. And on 15th October, we are hosting all-day event with SM Mayor's Permit Center. We'd love you to, and I know Freddie
Yeah,
is.
I will. I'm judging Startup Battlefield at TechCrunch, so I'll definitely be in San Francisco.
Oh, we'll do a Latin track there with Freddie, who you know.
That's great.
He's supposed to be on the call as well. I met him yesterday. And we will pair. He's talking to Mora Capital, Banco Santander, all these people to participate. So we'll keep you as a mentor for the LATAM section. So much appreciate for being in our life all the time whenever we need it. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Ben. All right. I hand over the floor to Axel, who's going to now interview two amazing leaders. The first one, he really helps startups drive their way to success. He is very quiet influencer in the global mobility world, head of Honda Accelerate Ventures, Raymond Zheng, a regular in our events. And after that, Axel will interview Zafar, VP from Mitsubishi. We love Zafar because we want to be the biggest evangelist of tech investing in health because we deal with a lot of health entrepreneurs. They are running pillar to post, but often they are not even approaching companies like Mitsubishi or many others, Night Era or Hitachi or all, because they think those people are not into health. But there's a tremendous crossover. COVID era has really brought health at the forefront, and Zafar is a great example of how health entrepreneurs can get in front of non-traditional tech investors like LG Tech. They invest 50% in health, all these companies. So, Axel, floor is yours. Much appreciate everything you do as our group CEO. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Raymond, it's a great pleasure whenever I have you. I remember actually the in-person events where I put you on the spot. You like questions that come out of the left field because you like these challenges. Now, we discussed before, health is not the topic of Honda, except when it supports the better driver security, right? We had discussed this on a previous event, but this is a sidearm. But for the audience that has not heard of you, would you please introduce yourself? What brought you to Honda Accelerate Ventures? What makes you excited there? And what is the core verticals that you like to address?
Yeah, thank you so much, Axel, and Casey as well. It's always a pleasure to attend an event like this. So, like Ben, I also have been in Silicon Valley for a long time and actually started as an engineer. Back in the days, I was spent a lot of time in Cisco as an engineer, building hardware, hardware boards and FPGAs. First half of the time in Korea in Cisco. And because my interest really varies a lot, and I'm always curious about different technology, even within a company like Cisco, I was able to expose to so many different technologies within the company. Eventually ended up in a team who is part of the corporate development. So we supported the corporate development team looking at different technologies across Cisco's spectrum of coverage, including, of course, networking, switching, routers, and things, but also video conferencing, security, IoT. I was actually part of the founding member of what they used to call a FOG Consortium, which was bought out. But basically, kind of, my job there was really help support the M&As of the companies where Cisco buys. And they're prolific in doing that, of course. During my career, I think I have supported like 25 M&A projects over a course of a few years. And then eventually ended up in a organization called Innovation Center. Really here is to help startups co-developing solutions together between Cisco's technology and startups technology. And from there, I get a lot of interest in helping startups, looking, really excited about working with startups, enjoying the fact that, you see this ambition and curiosity and creativity every day. And whenever you think things have got to the top of the peak and nothing can be better, and here, sure enough, another startup come up in a different way and make things better. So and during the time when I was in Innovation Center, actually, Honda approached me and wanted to find somebody who has Silicon Valley background and wanted to drive the spirit into transforming Honda. And that's when the autonomous driving was at also the peak, or going to the peak. And I like cars. I always love enjoying cars and love to be able to be part of the changes to the OEM and the ecosystem to make day-to-day life better for people. And that's why I jumped into Honda. And that was 7, 8 years ago. And Honda the team in Honda is called Honda Accelerator Ventures now. It used to be just Honda Accelerator. That name actually have two implications. We actually imply that this is a team that actually not just doing investments, but also doing POCs, facilitating discussions and collaboration with internal R&D teams. Think of us as a way to bridge into the Honda R&D environment. We right now we also invest as a second half of a job. We invest into seed A, B, maybe perhaps pick up where Ben's investment left off. And the things that we are really typically looking at are related to the Honda's 2050 mission, which is zero fatality in all our vehicles and zero carbon or carbon neutrality. And zero fatality is easier to understand. It's really about sensors, making the car better interactions, making it safer, AIs, autonomous driving. The zero carbon, the sustainability side is actually three parts. There's the energies part. How do we, leverage sustainable energy for things like EVs and batteries, and also carbon neutrality in general for enterprises. We try to bring in some, carbon neutral technology into Honda the corporate or Honda the manufacturer or Honda the company, right? And although recycling is a big piece of the zero carbon side of things. So we do invest about, like I said before, seed A and B. I'll say somewhere between $500,000 to 10 million is historically we have put out. We have a kind of evergreen fund, not a fund, but evergreen structure off the balance sheet. And what we're looking for are kind of unique technologies. A bit like Ben, we are also very selective. Every year, the whole team go through maybe 5,000 plus startups. And last year, we only invested 2 or 3, sometimes 4. So that's where we are.
Is this frustrating for you that you see maybe 100 you could invest, but you have to be even more fine-eyed in your selection process to come down to the 2, 3 convincing ones ultimately? And what is the decision factor?
Yeah, yes, it's actually, there's a bit of frustration, but it's also understandable, understanding that the fact that what we're looking for are really important to Honda's future. The general domain is based on the two zeros I mentioned, but I think we only look for or only want to invest into a company that actually has what we call a wow technology factor, which basically, think about it breaking down into 2 main things. One is the technology has kind of unique, either a very highly IP'd technology nobody else have thought about doing, or maybe use it in a different unique way. That's the first one. The second one, actually, the impact should be very strong to what it is doing. It's either impact to the field, impact to the society, the company. So those are the 2 key factors, and that's actually a very high bar, I have to say. That's why our selection is rated so low.
I have heard in a similar interview with a venture person from IBM that 99% of the outreaches are a complete mismatch to IBM's venture capital structure. Is that what you experience as well? And what should entrepreneurs do to actually better understand what Honda is looking for versus randomly reaching out?
Well, random is probably what most people will do anyway. So we welcome that. We do welcome that. We are really open to all the incomings. So 99. So I would say because of the unique factor, the wow factor we're looking at, that's for investment, right? But I talked about we actually two jobs we do. One is investment. The other one is facilitating partnership and collaboration with internal R&D team. And I usually think about them as 3 horizons. Horizon 1 is a technology that can help Honda's being competitive. Honda's technology already existed, but somehow you have something, the startup have something that can help to strengthening their competitiveness, right? So that's kind of horizon thing that we also look for. The second piece is horizon two. It's a little bit more adjacent to what Honda's doing. Maybe not a main business, a little bit of small business, but also maybe outside, but in 3 to 5 years, it could be Honda's business, or some team will take them and kind of just look into those areas as well. And then the horizon three, which is moonshot, 10 years out type of stuff. So within those scope, we try to match the startup's technology into what Hondas really need. And we do actually have many, many proof of concept happening in any given time. I would say more than a few dozen, actually. So those is about matching the requirements from the internal Honda to what the startup technology do. So don't hesitate to come to us because we are selective in investment, but you are also watching out for things that can be matching the current paradigm of Honda.
Ben mentioned earlier in his address that the gating factor for him right now is called insane evaluation. Are you experiencing this as well? And what should entrepreneurs think about demanding high valuations? Is this actually the end game, or what is more important?
Well, so I think for entrepreneur, what I'm seeing a lot of the area that we're targeting is not necessarily it's definitely higher, but it's not insane. Because we're looking at a lot of hard tech. It's something that require money for infrastructures and to time to build, right? We do look for some AI stuff, and those are insane. And usually our value proposition is not about the money, it's really about the collaboration opportunity, the connection with the Honda, the use case, and Honda being the customer, or sharing the perspective as a customer with a startup. So our value is not really focused on the money itself. Yeah, like I said, we invest a lot of hard tech. From an entrepreneur that we've seen, at least a few years ago, we've seen really many of them are really about changing the world to be better. Not so much going after the money. I think it might change a little bit with the software and AI side of things a little bit, but what I'm seeing is still a bit more in the traditional kind of world, to be honest.
Are you taking actually a board seat?
We typically don't, but we do take observer if possible, so that we can help to facilitate we mean the CVC team can help to watch and help the startup to work with an R&D if there's an opportunity to work together. And usually we take board seat if there's a closer project, closer opportunity we can work together between Honda and the startup.
I mean, with your experience, with your background, I would always welcome you on my board because it's not about the money, right? It's about getting extra C-level, top quality people that have seen more than just one thing to help the company push into the right direction. Can you at least, but you are available on the observer seat to be that ear and voice, right?
That's exactly right. And to be honest, nowadays, even observer seat, I do a lot to help the startups, things around fundraising and business development as well, doing a lot of introduction. So observer is sort of a limited term by definition, but we're doing a lot more than that.
It's probably around the liability clause, right? You don't never want to be liable being on the board to a degree, and I can fully understand this. So can you give us an understanding for the last few deals in what the average development time was from first contact to a term sheet?
Okay. So a couple of deals that at least I can talk very closely with is one is a company called Silk. It's a FMCW LiDAR company. So this one takes about, I think it's actually a relatively short time because there is an opportunity for the Honda R&D team working with the startups, and they are trying to establish a joint development agreement. We also want to get in there in a similar time frame. So that one takes about, I remember probably a month and a half or something like that, right? So this is an interesting company. They provide, very accurate measurement with LiDAR measurement with FMCW, and they are attacking three markets. Automotive is their long shot market, which will take a few years to come to next model year, or maybe around 2030 or so, if that. And the other market is dual use defense because their technology can, they can detect drone miles away. And compared to video vision, of course, that's the advantage of knocking down, locking on the target and with no disruption from the background. And then the other market is robotic vision, which goes into like assembly lines and defect detection, this type of things that the LiDAR can do. So that's one company. The other company is it's a semiconductor company. You would think, why would Honda invest in a semiconductor company? So this is actually very unique because they actually have a analog in-memory compute for AI inferencing, right? Their claim, or they rightfully is theoretically correct, is that they can be saving power. They're 100% better in power consumptions than, say, NVIDIA, right? So it is important in the future for Honda having these things in the car to kind of do the AI processing. So that's why we have invested in the company. That was actually a recapped company. Also, the decision was maybe around 2 months, 1.5, 2 months or so. That's also very quick because we actually also have another project working with them as well.
I think as much as I enjoy and could fill the next 3 hours in talking to you, I think this is the conclusion of our interview. Is there a last statement you would like to do to our entrepreneurs?
Yeah, Casey, you were going to say something?
Yeah, that's very interesting that you invested in semicon company. So couple of things. We have two semicon companies here. One is Alix Labs from Sweden, and the other is Crystal Sonic. So maybe take a look at Alix Lab because I think Crystal Sonic may be too earlier for you. And we are doing during Silicon Valley Access Week, very, very elite event on 13th October because that's also Semicon West. We have head of, Terry Goldsmith of Samsung Catalyst Fund head, who's on our board. Then people from Sony, all these people are coming. So we'd love to have you speak in that event on 13th October in San Francisco.
Okay.
So on this, because we are trying to change mindset of people. Don't be so siloed. Siloed is good, but get advice from people outside your domain because that's where the real innovation is coming from. Semicon investing in water tech. If I'm sustainable company running from pillar to post, I'm not even approaching Semicon. But hey, they're interested in sustainable. So we'd really please look at your calendar and let us know. We'd
Okay.
love to have you talk on this particular topic. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so just to wrap up, I think speaking as a CVC side, I do think startups should also consider CVC. There are different type of business model for CVC. I think at least to sell ourselves, our advantage is we actually have both the opportunity to work with internal business unit on collaborations, POC, but also investment. But other CVC teams also have a different business model where it is a lot more easier to provide money. And then some CVC also a lot focus on the open innovation part. So don't just limit yourself to only getting money, but open your horizon to see, how do we get an organization like us or other CVCs that not just provide money, but also provide opportunity as your future kind of vanguard customer or partners.
Again, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure and hope to see you soon. If you are in the area, you heard from Casey, we have this big event at the San Francisco Mayor's office. I'd love to have you in person again.
Yeah, I'll keep my eyes open. Definitely, I think I'm free that week, so should be okay.
Great, thank you. Okay, and now I come to also my distinct pleasure having the second Japanese automotive being represented in form of Zafa. Zafa, it's a great pleasure. You work for Mitsubishi Ventures, and same question to you in the opening. First of all, what brought you to Mitsubishi, and what's your various interests and what you offer to the startup community?
Axel, great pleasure to be here. And Casey mentioned twice, we love Zafar, and I want to return that before I start my answer. I love you too, Casey. So
Thank
I
you.
also would like to make one clarification. So I represent Mitsubishi Electric, not Mitsubishi Motors or any other Mitsubishi entity. Okay. I come from an engineering background. So my PhD was in signal processing, machine learning, and applications of those to solve problems in wireless communication systems and remote sensing. So I was a research scientist for about 15 years. Our KPIs were publish papers, file patent applications. After so many years, the marginal gratification of filing one more patent application or publishing one more paper, it kind of diminished. And I wanted to really run the entire journey from idea to commercialization. That's why I transitioned onto the business innovation side in 2016 and started building products internally. That activity turned itself into a formal innovation center in 2020. We utilize different innovation instruments in the innovation center. We work with the universities very closely to validate business assumptions, check feasibility of certain technologies. And these are very low cost way to kind of de-risk what we are going to work on. Also, we co-run venture classes with several universities. In these venture classes, graduate students are invited to take the course and move from a selected idea to a prototype. At the end, they incorporate startups. And as the Innovation Center, we provide advisory and mentorship services to these teams. And that's also very rewarding to us in terms of hiring talent or identifying which new startup we want to incubate in the Innovation Center and things like that. We also work very closely with our CVC. We have a traditional CVC. As the Innovation Center, we also have a small capital allocated for pre-seed and seed stage investments. And we are sourcing deals to our CVC, but also we are exploring what we can invest in pre-seed stage as the Innovation Center. About 2 weeks ago, the corporate announced an innovation hub in Boston. It is called Serendy Street Boston, that brings all our corporate resources together in one facility, and we are opening our doors to the outside community as well to promote collaboration, co-build opportunities. And we have a plan to open our second Serendy in Silicon Valley.
So you don't have to move. You don't have to bear snow for the next.
Right now, my time is split between Boston and California. Hopefully, after opening the California branch, I'll stay in California more.
Oh, okay. Because I lived over 20 years in Boston, and I wouldn't envy you living there and walking through the big snow during the winter times. In the summer, it's
Yes.
okay.
I lived that life for 15 years. Yes.
You did live this life for 15 years, yeah. What particular type of companies have you brought in the last 2-3 years so that we can get a good guidance what your interests are?
In the past couple of years, our interest shifted towards advanced air mobility. and we were both exploring investment opportunities and also internally building a new venture. That still excites us. Indeed, recently things started gaining a momentum. FAA just in March 2026 approved 8 eVTOL Advanced Air Mobility Integration programs. These programs will cover 26 states to really deploy real world operations for cargo delivery, passenger transport, inspections. We are actively working with some of these states and actively looking for strategic partners at different layers of the AAM stack, from UTM to air vehicles, application layer solutions, scheduling, dispatching, and coordination.
Okay.
Other areas we are looking into, or we called as high priority, include agri-tech, food tech, and as the Innovation Center, we are also pioneering in investments in healthcare. In the healthcare area, our focus is currently non-clinical. The interesting problems we discovered in our research include expiring inventory. Many hospital networks waste billions of dollars annually in expiring inventory, and we are looking into ways to how we can prevent this. And another common problem in hospital systems is contract leakage. Missing rebates, overpaying, and the financial impact of those also multi-billion-dollar annually. Care at home, logistics. We are particularly looking at this problem through the lens of logistics and supply chain. If hospitals are bringing their clinical resources to patients' homes, how do you manage all these assets and activities?
The very interesting subject matters, and you have hired a new person in the clinical side, and I hear both of you will be in San Diego, right?
Yes.
I will see you both on Monday.
Yes, correct. So in the April, we hired her from UC Berkeley. Prior to hiring her, we did one deep tech project with the university, and April was leading it. That's one benefit of working with universities very closely. So you identify talent and then recruit them.
Absolutely fantastic. And you said you're working close with your venture arm. So people coming to you, you can help to the introduction, and so because everybody here on the call today is looking for money, right?
Yes.
There's nothing new there. And that's what's the typical stage the venture arm is interested to go in?
I'll answer it for the CVC and also for our part.
Yeah.
CVC is looking at Series A and plus kind of opportunities. We don't lead. Sometimes we take an observer seed. And those are the type of deals we are sourcing for them. But their focus is more on digital transformation of our current businesses. Helping data centers or factory automation division or elevator division or space. As the Innovation Center, I think we are taking more risk by looking at pre-seed in new territories. For example, about a week ago, I witnessed a new AI technology, and since that day, I have been still mind blown. I think many people here may know YOLO, a very, very conventional, convolutional neural network-based algorithm for image recognition and semantic understanding of images. And typical YOLO model requires about 200 megabytes to store the parameters and manage the dependencies. And also it requires 4 gigabyte RAM. This technology required 1 kilobyte RAM. and 1 kilobyte to store parameters and 4 megabyte RAM. So like look at the order of magnitude reduction. This is not running on GPU, it's running on a simple CPU. And it can understand images and objects, detect objects in the images. So these kind of things excite us, and these are the type of things that as the Innovation Center, we try to discover and invest.
If I would give you a magic wand and you could wish from all startup companies the one thing that would make a major difference, what would it be?
Major difference for us or for the world?
Major difference for you, absolutely, because I think the first salesperson at a startup company needs to sell the investor, right? The customers are then validation and so on. But if I can't sell the investor, then there is definitely a problem.
I think AI native solutions to industrial problems, that would definitely get our attention.
Okay. Is there actually, that comes across your table, any company left that has a great solution that doesn't necessarily integrate or need AI for the solution?
Can you rephrase your question?
Yes. I have looked at about 180 startup companies the other day, and there was not a single one that doesn't say AI.
True.
I am wondering whether there are no businesses left.
True. I think every startup is including AI in their pitch.
Yeah.
And also they're going even a step further and call themselves AI native. There's a lot of clutter. And one risk for us is now it is very easy to build something, right? An individual can build an energy management system in hours, maybe. Traditionally, it took maybe a team for 6 months.
Yeah.
Now, if building is so easy, everyone can replicate what you have. So the new problem is, how do you create a sustainable business? How do you protect your competitive advantages? Software-only solutions will suffer from that risk. Our approach to that is to leverage our installed equipment base. Traditionally, we are a very equipment-heavy company, right? Heat pumps, HVAC units, robotic arms, transformers, switch gears. Collecting data from these equipment and creating an intelligence layer, that is a corporate priority right now.
That makes a lot of sense, that we need to concentrate on the lasting value, especially in the software world. You cannot file patents easily, right? And without a patent, your protection is going by the wayside. So, and by the way, even at patents, you have to tell everybody what the source is of your solution. And at the end of the day, you as an engineer will be trained on how to circumvent the patent, right? So you need to come up with an extreme good business model for your future prospects.
Very true. And I think in this AI era, the value of patents is questionable also.
Yeah. So I like the Coca-Cola model. Because today, even PepsiCo tried for 50 years to figure out the recipe, and they can't. So that's probably the magic behind it, right?
Yes. Axel, also, like in our R&D in Boston, we generate about 500 new patent applications every year. And now in our new model, we are opening that up to startups for collaboration, so they can talk to us and leverage our existing IP.
Yeah, I was on the board of a semiconductor company. We had 160 patents, and I kept on saying this is not a sales strategy, that's a defense strategy against Intel and others. But you cannot build a business on your patents. Nothing sells. There's no money in this, in principle, right? By the way, why don't you even see, because Zafar is very often on the East Coast, whether you can't talk to him about the DC event that you're putting on?
I'll send an email. We'll talk on Monday.
Okay. that sounds fantastic. Zafar, I have even more time. I'm so excited with you on Monday on our event at Park and Market in San Diego. You coming in earlier already on
I'll
Sunday?
come in early. Yes, yeah. So excited and looking forward to that event.
Yeah, take my number down, 508-259-7958. Maybe we can grab some coffee or so and meet.
That would be great. Yes, let's plan for
okay.
that.
Thank you so much. And
Vikas Gupta. I'm with Shell Ventures. I'm based in San Francisco. We are the CVC, similar to the other ones that you've heard. Our only LP is Shell, the oil and gas company. Our mandate is to invest in companies that are focused on the energy transition. So we are looking for investing in technologies and business models that can help reduce the carbon footprint of any operation. So we're looking at new ways of generating power, trading power, electrification of mobility, including road transportation, marine, as well as aviation. And then the third bucket for us is industrial decarbonization, electrification of industrial processes. We're a stage agnostic fund. We invest across stages, anywhere from seed stage to growth stage. Our check size can vary from $1 million to $20-30 million. About 85 portfolio companies with offices in San Francisco, Houston, and Boston in the US, and then headquartered in London, and then having offices in Berlin, Bangalore, and Beijing.
when you say seed stage, do you
Yeah.
mean idea stage without prototype, or do you mean prototype needs to exist?
Prototype needs to exist. Just a PowerPoint won't be sufficient, and has to be deep tech and the seed stage. And if it's a business model innovation, it's harder. It has to be something deep tech, which is either inventing a new material, a new process, or something which is very technically difficult.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for obviously take a look. You will take a look at all the companies. One, you already met Brilliant Energy. Take a look at them again. They have some amazing updates now. And thanks. And when you are done with the call, maybe we'll see you back. Thank you, Vikas.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
We have some more investors. And today, most of them are our inner circle. Like, even though Vikas Gupta not technically associated with us, but he's my dear friend for decades. And our next investor is the secretary of our CVC board, and he is a global ambassador. He goes to Davos every year. He famously invested in Flying Car Company, which is really going viral. Their videos are showing tens of millions views, and this is a very rare person who sticks out his neck for us. Very, very grateful to have Jim Hurd give an update. And since we have Raymond from Honda and all, you can talk about progress for Olive Flying Car Company. Were the first outside investor after Tim Draper. So please give them a plug.
Yeah, great to be with you today. Exciting times. I'm doing quite a bit in nuclear-related startup companies currently, and also space infrastructure. Obviously, huge money going into space infrastructure after the SpaceX IPO last Friday. And I'm continuing to do great things with Aleph Aeronautics, which is a personal flying car that 10 years from now, it'll cost $30,000 at retail to buy it. And you'll put it in your garage, come out 10 feet, and go straight up in the air. So it's an exciting time for EVTOL. I'm old friends with Aita Kitani at Mitsubishi and have talked with Mitsubishi off and on about where the electric vertical takeoff world is going. So I might catch up with Zafir on that a little bit. And, he quoted the big program that Sean Duffy announced starting to get into effect in the next few months on electric vertical takeoff companies, air taxi companies, doing rollouts of different kinds of experiments in a number of areas in the United States. So, great to be here today. It's a time when a lot of innovation is happening. It's very difficult to raise money, but a lot of progress is being made. So, inspiring time we live in today.
Thank you, Jim. Our next investor is someone we are working, uh, figuring out how to work strategically for LATAM. This is the person who was head of corporate venture innovation for BBVA, second largest LATAM bank in the world, and has been our mentor and judge for the last few years. He pivoted his career and did PhD and became a teacher and guru on AI and governance. And this is a fantastic person who really cares a lot about startups. So if Freddie Seba, you are here, please. Otherwise, he'll join in. Today what happens is we try to have uh, at least one featured investor per one startup presenter on the agenda, and typically another double of that amount of investor come and go. So we have, say, today seven startups pitching, seven featured investor, and another 7 to 10 come and go. Sometimes people like US Angels, John Ritchie comes and goes today, even though he is featured in most of our investor. Or sometimes we see people who are unfeatured but featured before, but they have joined in. Like we just have Dhawal Kapadia join in. He worked for Apollo Private Equity back in the days, and he's the co-chair of Thai SoCal Angels, and we are figuring out how to go deeper with him. So we just upgraded him to a featured investor. So Dhawal, why don't you introduce yourself and briefly say what kind of startups Thai SoCal Angel invests in?
Thank you, Casey. I really appreciate the kind intro. I am on the board of Thai Los Angeles, and I chair the angel group within the organization. We have about 100 high net worth individuals who are looking for investments. So I help facilitate those transactions. And right now, we've seen a lot of activity in AI. As I think Zafar mentioned before, and Axel obviously discussed this, but every single startup uses the word AI in their pitch. But the real challenge is, can you actually deliver on AI first capabilities? And as we've seen time and time again, the startups and the companies that are basically trying to add on AI onto what they're already doing sort of struggle and tend to deliver on the promise of. And the companies that are sort of building ground up using the new technology, they are 5xing, 10xing what anybody else can do. And those are the companies we're really looking for and we're constantly in search of. And to that extent, I actually am also a co-founder of a venture studio I founded with a very close friend of mine. And we've hired 15 at this point, 15 top AI engineers in India. And we are, as part of the venture studio, we're developing new initiatives that are in this space. So this sort of helps me stay on top of what's happening in the AI space. And the first two projects, we're very close to spinning them off in the next 30 to 90 days. And the technology these folks have developed is absolutely mind-blowing. I think Zephyr said that, he every time he sees this new project, it sort of sticks with you. And a week later, you're still thinking about it and going, oh my God, how do I how did these guys do this, right? Just as an example, one of the technologies I saw last week was speech to text and text to speech.
Sorry. So on that note, Lara, Crystal Sonic, floor is yours.
Okay. Okay, can everybody see?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, good morning, everybody. My name's Laura Bathurst. I'm CFO and co-founder at Crystal Sonic. At Crystal Sonic, we're developing a semiconductor manufacturing technology that is designed to reduce complexity, eliminate wasteful processes, and ultimately bolster yield and deliver billions of dollars in cost savings across multiple industries. We're an Arizona-based startup and spin-off from Professor Bertoni's lab in the Electrical Engineering Department at Arizona State University. To date, we've been predominantly funded through government grants, and the founders remain committed to the company, and we've managed to build a team of 11. We've also been able to win several prestigious industry awards, such as the Lam Capital competition, as Casey mentioned, as well as the National Semiconductor Technology Center inaugural awards last year. Whilst our technology is applicable across many markets, today I'm going to focus on the memory market, a market being fundamentally transformed by artificial intelligence. Ultimately, for the high quality inference required of AI, you need to have high quality bandwidth memory. Whilst the memory market is growing at around about 10% overall, the high bandwidth memory segment of that is growing at around 35%. This is because, as its name suggests, it delivers faster memory versus traditional memory. And this is because of advanced packaging techniques. And these advanced packaging techniques, be it your 3D die stack or your 3D wafer stack, they're actually a complex and wasteful, they have complex and wasteful steps in their current form. This process diagram below, this shows how a 12-inch carrier wafer needs to be bonded to a device in order to then carry that to the second device. And then ultimately that carrier wafer needs to be removed. And out of these 6 steps, 4 of them are subject to significant yield loss and wasted material, which is a costly problem, which is growing in significance since the industry has moved to 12-inch silicon material. The industry is calling for a simplified process and for that carrier to be reused. The carrier material at 12 inches around about $100, and that's at high volume manufacturing, so you can kind of understand why. With Crystal Sonic's technique, it's called sonic liftoff. We utilize acoustic energy to control the separation of that carrier wafer from the device stack with precision. We can precisely get the depth at which we need to make that separation. And what we do is we leave high quality surfaces which allow for that carrier to be reused rather than to have it wasted. The process begins with that carrier and device wafer stack. We apply a low-cost stress material to that sample, and then we cool the system down. And what you're doing is you will develop a mismatch in the thermal coefficient of expansion. If you keep going, there'll be a spontaneous rupture. We don't allow it to get to that point. We get it just before that point, and that's when we introduce acoustic energy. And by introducing acoustic energy, you introduce the stress, and you're in control of the additional stress required to make the separation. And by controlling it, this is where we perform the separation where it needs to be, and we leave both the carrier and the device stack intact. In doing so, with our one step, we will then eliminate 4 out of the 6 steps previously demonstrated, and whilst also providing that carrier material intact for reuse. This is an example of our most recent work on this. This is at 6 inches, and it demonstrates a clean separation of the silicon carrier, which is on the left-hand side, from our approximate of a device stack. And with this situation, we just had 2 wafers bonded together as that device stack. But as you can see, there's a pristine surface, very clear that the device stack and the carrier wafer are intact 100%. And these unit processes will scale to 12-inch, and that's our ultimate goal. We aim to have a proof of concept of this towards the end of this year. It's a differentiated solution versus other techniques that can actually get rid of materials, such as the backgrinding or laser-based approaches, both of which introduce subsurface damage. As you can see at the far right-hand side, with sonic liftoff, we don't introduce any subsurface damage, and this is optimal to allow for material to be reused, and it doesn't impact the devices. It's a very quick process. The actual separation occurs like a click of the fingers, and we've demonstrated it on other materials as well as purely silicon. So our technique is applicable in other major markets. I've mentioned memory, but also for in photonics, we're looking for much faster data transmission speeds, and for that, there's thin film lithium niobate. We can utilize our technology in order to reach the thin film lithium niobate layers, and also for indium phosphide, a very expensive material at the moment, and they're looking to introduce thinner layers, and we can achieve that with our technology and allow for reuse of the material. And then also with energy, the higher efficient devices are built with silicon carbide and gallium nitride and power electronics. And by facilitating our reuse technology, we can allow for the reuse of that expensive material as well. In terms of a business model, in the high volume markets such as silicon, we intend to introduce our technology into a cassette-to-cassette tool, which we can tune to the customer requirements. So if they want a specific depth of a precision cut, we can do that. And so ultimately, we would be looking at tool sale models there. For more niche markets where the primary driver of value is the expensive material, we can look at licensing opportunities as we develop the right recipe to address the cut needs there. We've had interest in this technology across multiple markets, most certainly in memory, photonics, and in power. We're very interested in us scaling to 8 to 12 inches, and there's certainly a willingness for strategic partnerships as we achieve those goals. We just kicked off our first substantial customer contract, which is underway with a photonics player, a major player in the photonics market, and then other feasibility studies are under discussion, and we just got to be able to manage resources and is it the right thing for the business. We'll be targeting a fundraising of around about 8 to 10 million towards the end of this year as we get more of our proof data as we move towards the 12-inch. And the goal of that fundraising would be to essentially fund the team and the equipment required to scale our technology. With that, hopefully I'm on time, and I'll leave you with a thank you very much for listening. I believe we're in a great position to really take this technology and deliver the benefits to the significant markets in semiconductor. Thank you.
Great. We have room for one question if anyone wants to ask a question. Otherwise, why don't you briefly explain how the Lam Research getting investment from Lam Research Capital, how is that leading to meeting more investors from their network?
It's been beneficial twofold. I think with them being so close to the markets and in terms of the pain points and where we can address those pain points, that's certainly been helpful. But then also, as they understand what our technology can deliver, they provide the credibility when they can stand there and say, hey, there's potential with this technology. And so they can bring other investors to the table. There's been lots of introductions, not only to investors, either CVCs that would be actually the device manufacturing CVCs, but then also the financial investors. I would add to that, there is the potential to seek funding through the revised CHIPS Act. And so we're also looking at that, and we'll be preparing a white paper for that purpose in the coming weeks.
That's great. And your calendar from 13th, because it's Semicon week, and also with TechCrunch, and we are going to host very, very elite event at O'Melveny law firm, or one of our sponsors. There'll be Sony, there'll be top people from Samsung, Catalyst, all these people. So just mark your calendar. And Axel has a question as well, right?
Actually, I have an announcement to make. And this event today is sponsored by San Jose State University. And one of the requirements when you have formal government entities involved is that they want an evaluation form being filled out. Please, everybody, I have just shared the link. Go in and fill it out because it helps us to keep these great events going. Thank you so much. Have a great further pitch session.
Thank you. Stop sharing screen. And now our next company presenting from Sweden is one of our other regulars in Semicon, Alix Labs. They have raised 14 million approximately euro, but they are eager to have some CVCs in the cap table. So we are really pushing, and they also know now we are connected with Taiwan government. We are connected to all these people. It's just a matter of time. So really excited to hand over the floor from Jonas from Sweden and Germany.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you also, Axel. Thank you very much. So I'm not going to talk about AI. I'm going to talk about semiconductor equipment, new kind of smart patterning processing. But of course, the drive in the market is AI, as you know. Obviously, NVIDIA, AMD, Intel are responding to this, also the founders. And what's going on in Texas with SpaceX and Terafab has just evaluated this year. So we are trying to address this structural bottleneck that we see, that there's a supply glut, not only with materials, geopolitics, it's also advanced equipment, specifically in lithography and etch. And we have a new process that can do quite much to contribute to a more positive way forward. And we also would like to address that escalation cost for manufacturing foundry nodes and memory. So where are we? We are in South Sweden, where our headquarters is. That's also where our clean room is and where we develop our processes. And we recently also opened a new office in the Netherlands, in Eindhoven, in the backyard of ASML. So we decided to just move all our manufacturing to the established ecosystem that's there around this wonderful company, the best Europe has in semiconductors, ASML. So it's already in there, so we just take a piggyback on that ecosystem, and this is where we build our equipment. What do we build? We have atomic layer etch equipment. This is similar kind of technology where Lam Research and Tokyo Electron is leading since about a decade. But we have managed to address also scaling with this technology. So we are integrated pitch scaling into the actual atomic layer etch process. And then we also have a business unit that focuses more on power applications, silicon carbide, gallium nitride, but our main thing, our secret sauce, is in this pitch splitting technology. So what do? We take the incoming pattern that can be like a silicon fin, like we look at here, or a metal line, or interconnect hard mask that needs to be densified. And we split that with one process step into two lines. So we double the density of the incoming lines. So basically we run Moore's law in a process chamber, a plasma etch process chamber. So incoming lines, we double the density, which is the goal of Moore's law since long. How does this look? So we work on atomic levels, so we can selectively split any feature. It's based on the incoming geometry of these lines. We can split amorphous silicon, crystalline silicon, polysilicon, dielectrics, metal nitrides. So it's not as long as you can have an etch chemistry going for the material, we can pitch split that. So here's an example. This is 12 nanometer UMC technology, incoming lines with a pitch of 80 nanometer. We cut those into two lines and thereby reduce the pitch to 40 nanometer, the full pitch, and we double the density. This is basically what the industry has been doing for a long time, but in a very complicated way, called self-aligned double patterning or self-aligned quadruple patterning, and some companies had a go at self-aligned quadruple patterning. But we have found a better way to do that. We have also demonstrated this with alternative lithography, so it's not all optical lithography out there. Canon has a nano imprint technology, which they acquired the technology quite some time ago from the US startup company, and has developed that into a 300-meter platform. We were able to demonstrate with Canon, which we showed in San Jose, sorry, at the SPA conference earlier this year, and we can then reach half pitch of about 10 nanometer and critical dimensions in this demonstration of 7 nanometer, which is somewhere right in between the sweet spot of where you can go with low NA UV lithography, which is the workhorse in the industry for advanced nodes, and the new upcoming high NA technology from ASML. We can go in and do such pattern in a very much more simple way and more cost-effective way. So what does it look like? So if you have, for example, typical self-run double patterning, you have lithography, you do a resist shrink, you put on a liner with a plasma ALD deposition process, you open this liner with the etch process, you create mandrels self-standing on the wafer, you transfer this into hard mask, and then you can go and do FinFETs or gate-all-around structures into bulk silicon or epi layer. And this is basically a 7-step process intercepted with cleans, so wet cleans, single wafer cleans, and metrology steps. And we do that in just one step. We take the initial incoming pattern, and out we have the double density of that. And we can also repeat this, so we can do it a second time and split those patterns again. And this was also presented recently at the SPA conference. So where are we with the technologies? We are now launching a beta tool. We launched it 2 weeks ago in Eindhoven. We build the equipment with VDL ETG projects in Eindhoven. They are the same manufacturer of a lot of the subcomponents for ASML, build chambers for Applied Materials and Lam Research. So it's a well-established supply chain over there in Eindhoven. It's also a global supply chain with US entity in Georgia. They have a factory in Singapore for the Asian market, in Vietnam and other places as well. So what do we need to do? We need to keep basically the same throughput as ASML scanner, so that the typical, like the twin scan sets the pace, 295 wafers per hour for immersion lithography, and then you have for other processes lower high throughput, and we need to match that, and we do that by clustering our chambers in a classical way. So we will need maybe 3 or 4 process clusters to keep up with that space. So globally, we are engaging. We have had most traction over in Japan and Taiwan with customers so far. They seem to be very curious about this technology, and now we're trying to go into the US market. So that's one reason we are part of this, let's say, incubator. And we are building up US organization now in 2026 as well. So on our financials, so yeah, we raised total 20 million euros since the start with seed rounds and Series A. We are now preparing. We are faster into Series B than originally anticipated. So come December, we want to close 30 million Series B round. Can become bigger depending on if we find a new lead investor or if we have how the consortium will look like. But we have backing from the existing consortium. So we already have subscription on this round for around about half of it. So it's an excellent opportunity if you want to come into already existing investor collective and support us going forward. And we aim to go on the Stockholm Stock Exchange 2029 and a pre-IPO in 2028. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to take any questions you may have out there. Thank you.
Jonas, great to see the update. Thank you for being our founding member. We have 5 health founding member, and you are the first non-health founding member. We will do whatever it takes because we are not really asking people to be founding member. We want to make them so successful, everyone beat down the door after that. So please let us know what kind of investor you want to meet during Semicon week. We have this very elite event on 10/13 with O'Melveny Law. We already have Sony. We already have head of Samsung Catalyst. We will put the best people in the room there. It's all about function of, okay, how much we are making. Is it worth putting 20 brilliant people, 20 investors? If we are not making that much, hey, even 10 will suffice or 9 will suffice, right? So make a
Yeah.
list and let us know. And let's discuss this after 4th of July weekend. So now,
Thank you.
please stop sharing the screen. Now, the next company, it's uh, is one of our long-term associates and I'm just amazed that Raymond recognized this company from our in-person San Jose State event last year. In that event, this founder met family office from Boston who invested 250K because this is an early stage company, but a spin-off of more established company he started back in the days. And he told us a couple of months ago that the same family office has agreed to invest more with at double the valuation in a year. So that itself speaks to this amazing presentation we will see now from Russ Jones, founder
He's
of.
not there.
He's not here. Okay, that's fine. We'll give a brief update about him because he's part of our CA government funded long-term mentoring, and we mentored his previous company too. Very battle-hardened entrepreneur, had a very big exit in the past. Harvard MBA, very very as top-notch entrepreneur as can be. And we have seen fantastic progress in this company, a private fleet net zero, which is a spin-off of Cargo Chief, where he's still chairman of the board. But he recognized a niche, especially in the cargo meets climate area, and spun this out at Private Fleet Net Zero, and right away managed to raise funding last year. And now they're extremely well connected in the private fleet trucking tech business. And company definitely will exit in the next few years. So, so that's the update of Private Fleet Net Zero. We do this. We sometimes pitch for our portfolio companies. This is a portfolio we are managing for California government, and the next company is Jump Aero, and the founder, I already mentioned him once, MIT PhD like Zafar, sold company in eVTOL space to parent of Volvo, moved to China, digested the acquisition, came back, started this company, raised 10, 12 million equity, 5, 6 million, lot of DoD contracts. Once again, this company will raise a lot more very quickly and give a very healthy exit to. So really excited to have Carl Detrich. And before you start, why don't you share your experience attending our event we co-hosted for Alliance Indus Foundation, where I'm secretary and board member at US House of Congress, and winning the Pitt Johnson Award in event we at GTS, which we are a sponsor.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. It's been great having the affiliation with Pitch Global and as you mentioned, having the opportunity to present at the Capitol, and as well, having the opportunity to be selected as the Pitch Johnson Award winner. I'm honored to have the opportunity to present to you all. As Casey mentioned, my background, I've been in the advanced air mobility space for about 2 decades now, coming out of my PhD program at MIT, founding a company called Terrafugia, growing that over the course of 13 years, and then selling it to the Zhejiang Geely Holding Group, the parent company of Volvo and Lotus, Geely Cars, Polestar, a bunch of global automotive brands. The experience was very illuminating. I came back, set up a global R&D center for eVTOL technology, electric vertical takeoff and landing technology, and that has morphed its way into what is now Aero, which is one of the leading eVTOL manufacturers in China. Through the course of that experience, I became convinced that while the air taxi market is definitely real and it's definitely happening, the rate of growth and the margin potential of the business were fairly highly constrained relative to other opportunities that were enabled by the technology. In particular, the opportunity that Jump Aero is pursuing, which is the use of eVTOL technology to save lives, to help first responders get to the scene of hard-to-reach emergencies as quickly as possible to stabilize patients. This is a fantastic use case for eVTOL technology because it's something that you can't do today with a helicopter, whereas air taxis, technically you can do that with a helicopter. You cannot do this mission with a helicopter. It's enabled by an all-electric aircraft, one that you can switch on and go to full power and pay no maintenance penalty for getting to that high power state in a heartbeat. That enables rapid response missions. A typical helicopter or any sort of thermal engine, before you go to full fuel flow, you want to warm it up. That startup procedure typically takes 3 minutes. And so that really subtracts 3 minutes out of what is a desirable 8-minute rapid response time for most ambulance companies around the world. So we believe we have found what in essence is the killer app of eVTOL technology. And we are the first company to optimize an eVTOL aircraft for this killer app. So every year, over 3 million people die simply because they can't get help fast enough. Even here in the United States, there's a double-digit percentage difference in preventable deaths, whether you live in an urban area where you have rapid first response or a rural, hard-to-reach area where you don't. That, just in the United States, is 67,000 lives every year. Jump Aero is making the Pulse all-electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. It is the fastest eVTOL in the world because it's optimized for this rapid response mission. You have probably heard of many other eVTOL and flying car companies out there. Joby and Archer are two of the big ones in the United States. There's also Beta. When you optimize for the air taxi mission, generally speaking, you want to fly in the neighborhood of 100 to 120 miles an hour because you will get your economics will work out better for the passenger carrying mission at that speed. Then you have personal use and recreational aircraft, Pivotal, Jetson, small either Part 103 ultralight aircraft or personal eVTOLs. Those generally, you're focused on keeping the acquisition cost as low as possible. It's less about the ongoing operation, more about the initial acquisition. And so those tend to fly even slower, particularly if they're Part 103 ultralights. But they do require less infrastructure. Whereas the Archers and Jobies and the air taxis of the world, you've got to build out tremendous charging infrastructure to charge at 600 kilowatts or even a megawatt of power in order to keep those aircraft making money for you. Jump Aero is in a very different category than any of these players. We go way faster than any of the competitors out there, way faster than the personal aircraft or the air taxis. We are in fact at the regulatory speed limit, 250 knots, below 10,000 feet. We fly as fast as you're allowed to fly below 10,000 feet. At the same time, we do not require the infrastructure build out of the air taxis because our battery is about the size of a Tesla battery, a normal EV battery. So we can charge with standard EV chargers. And unlike air taxis that have to stay in the air all the time and have quick 15-minute or 5-minute turnarounds to keep making money for you, this mission is successfully accomplished with maybe 1 flight a day, maybe 2 flights a day. It's whenever the need arises. So the value is delivered by having the service available, not by keeping the assets flying. So it's a very fundamentally different business model than the air taxi business model or the personal use business model. It's very exciting, much higher margin potential because the value delivered on a per flight basis is orders of magnitude higher than the underlying cost. And that is the key underlying driver of the business opportunity, is that margin potential. So in addition, because I've been in this industry for a long time, I've advised the FAA on the creation of the modernization of special airworthiness certificates, the Mosaic rulemaking, which just went into effect last year. What this does is not for passenger carrying aircraft, but for aircraft that are just flown and operated by trained professionals or private pilots. It allows a pathway to bring those aircraft to market, bypassing the special type certificate program, or what you may have heard of as a 2117B process that Joby and Archer. This is why it's taking them a decade to get to market, is that certification process. Basically, the FAA is figuring out how they have to certify these aircraft in parallel with certifying them. So it's a very time-intensive process. This new rule change basically puts the onus on industry to write standards. And fortunately, those standards have been created by myself and the other members of the advanced air mobility community that have been doing this for a while and have been involved with some of the larger air taxi businesses. And then we go through what's effectively a compliance and audit process, not a certification process. So what this means in practice is shorter time to market, significantly less capital. So instead of a $2 billion program, we believe our program is on the order of a $200 million program. So order of magnitude less capital, which means that the return on investment is correspondingly higher. So by focusing on rapid response and very high speed, we differentiate ourselves from the rest of the pack significantly. And we are opening up not just EMS. EMS is the launch market because it has the most appealing margins and lowest barriers to entry, but also courier logistics. You can imagine getting spare parts to an offshore oil rig faster than a helicopter. Commuter services, right? This is the fastest way to do a commute distance, period, at 250 knots or 288 miles per hour. So we have multiple different venues, but as you go down the list, the margins get tighter and the barriers get larger. So just doing a quick hit on the why EMS is so important. For 57 million rural Americans, the average response time is 14.5 minutes if you call 911. If you had a cardiac arrest or something where you don't have oxygen to the brain, that means you're dead, basically. With Jump Aero's eVTOL technology, we can cut that response time in half, getting a trained professional to the scene of a rural emergency in 7 minutes. The high speed makes the economics work, right? We go 3 times as far as the next competitor in the space in that time-critical 8-minute response window. That means that our coverage area, our effective coverage area, is 10x the competitors. So with one aircraft and a team of 2 people on duty, we can cover 3,000 square miles with sub 8-minute emergency response. Nobody can do that. In terms of traction, as Casey mentioned, we've won 5 contract awards from the Air Force, $3.6 million revenue in the door. We have non-refundable deposits with one of our largest customers, which is Falk, a global emergency response company. We have MOUs in place with state, county, and tribal governments in the United States. And we are also a participant in that eVTOL integration pilot program that the FAA is hosting. We partnered with Utah, one of our MOU partner states. And so we are the only company in this group that is 100% focused on this use case of saving lives with eVTOL technology. And as you can imagine, that gets a lot of political support. In addition, there is a tremendous private market opportunity for concierge emergency response service in these rural areas. And we've quantified that with our market research. It's about a $13 billion a year opportunity just in the United States that's enabled by our aircraft. So where are we? We have flown scaled aircraft. We have a pitch motion simulator that's been flown by the FAA test pilot who developed the procedures that they're using for certifying the big eVTOLs. We've tested our propulsion system beyond the limits, and we just got the clarification that we needed from the FAA that our aircraft will qualify under the new Mosaic rule, so we don't need a type certificate for the aircraft. Our team is phenomenal. We've been around the block. This is, I would argue, one of the most experienced teams in the startup eVTOL world. We've decided to expand the capital that we're going after. We are raising $40 million now, and that $40 million is actually going to take us through the first 3 prototype aircraft. And the reason that we're not just doing the first one is basically the design's already done. That was completed under Air Force contract. It's being built right now. By the end of this summer, you're going to see pictures of our first full-scale mock-up made from those molds. And so we want to secure the capital now that's going to take the lessons that we learned from that and iterate the design to the production-ready design. So very excited to be out there and be a part of the FAA eIPP program and be partnered with the Air Force and Falk, our largest customer. We're looking for folks that are excited to be a part of this journey and who recognize the opportunity to help save lives with eVTOL technology.
That's great. Now, Carl, thanks again. We love the thinking bigger and raising, more than what you had envisioned before, because, you're a top entrepreneur in the space, so why not? And also, do you, we talked about this. You didn't much mention the word AI, but you still use some of it, right? So maybe why don't you briefly tell us how AI could infuse higher valuation for your company, and that could make a difference to catch the first attention of the kind of level of investors you're seeking.
Yeah, so in aviation, AI is somewhat controversial in that it's non-deterministic, and non-deterministic systems are difficult to certify. Traditionally speaking, the only way we have of certifying a non-deterministic system in aviation is pilot certification, because human beings are non-deterministic. So the aircraft itself is fully deterministic and does not have any AI in it by design. And that's important. If you want the vehicle to get to market in an acceptable manner, it's not going to have AI infused into the core safety critical systems. However, we do use AI in a number of ways, and I'll jump ahead. So in particular, the training of the aircraft. It's a one-person aircraft. So having an AI co-pilot / flight instructor with you that doesn't directly control the aircraft, but keeps you aware of things just like a flight instructor would. That's really key. So that's absolutely critical to the accelerated training program that we have for the vehicle. And it's not that we don't have autonomy systems on board either. We do. There's an accepted means of bringing certified autonomy packages to market through this expandable variable autonomy architecture, which is a software architecture. And we do use also what's called simplified flight controls. So this makes it basically impossible for, no matter what inputs the pilot makes to the aircraft itself, the aircraft is not going to go out of control. So we have very sophisticated systems. We partnered with Caltech on an adaptive machine learning-based experimental flight control routine. We proved that can handle failures better than the traditional deterministic system in our flight controller, but the pilot still needs to be able to turn it off. So it's very interesting the way AI is infused in safety critical aviation systems, because it definitely has a role to play, but it is not inside the core safety critical loops. It's on the outside.
Raymond from
Fantastic.
Honda wants to know who pays for the flights.
How what?
Who pays for the flights? Raymond asked from
Oh, yeah.
Honda.
So there are two ways. So either through the public entity, right? So we do have MOUs in place with county governments. So it will either be tax basis funded or through the private concierge model. It's actually a subscription service that if you live in a rural area, you know it's going to take a long time to get help if you call 911. You subscribe to this service and you get an app on your phone. And if you have an emergency and you need help, you push that button and it calls 911 for you, but it also deploys us to your location in parallel. We're going to get there first. We're going to help. We're going to stabilize. Eventually, the ambulance shows up, and but our first responder will stabilize the situation and get help to you faster than traditional response. So in that case, it's the rural subscriber who's paying for the service.
Fantastic. We got to move on, but thank you. Great answers. And stop sharing screen. Next company is going to do a demo. This is another company we are long-term mentoring for CA government with very strong roots in Stanford, where James Ulrich is also a teacher, and he started Region Village out of Netherlands, and they are one of the companies truly saving the world. So glad to have you back, James.
Thanks so much, Casey. Really. I'm James Ehrlich. I'm founder of Regen Villages. I'm also director of Compassion Sustainability at Stanford University. I'm just entered my 15th year at Stanford. This is a really exciting opportunity for us to have this open source, open science platform that we've been building called the Village OS. This is a land opportunity that we've been working on. We've been working in different climate zones with different landowners, different landholders, different asset and stakeholders around the world, especially diverse climate zones. In how do we use technology, machine learning software to reimagine open supply chain security? Couldn't be more critical at this moment in human history. So I will stop the share there and happy to answer any questions. And thanks again for having me.
We did run out of time, James.
Sure.
But just hold the thought how you ended. Let's talk about, this asset class. That's amazing. We could have an entire event around new asset classes. Because this merchant bank in Singapore, which is affiliated to our chairwoman and co-founder, they love talking about new asset classes and all. And if you can come in to Singapore during super return, we could do something with you as well. So stop sharing screen. Now the next company is Brilliant Energy, and their long-term CFO, David Fortune, is gonna present. They just raised 35 million from Tim Mellon, who took a seat on the board. This is being on the board with Tim Mellon could be a extremely attractive investment proposition for especially Asian money, trying to get into the Silicon Valley and US ecosystem. So, David, my friend, floor is yours.
Thank you. So Brilliant Energy is a deep tech, clean technology, renewable energy, long-running startup. We've come a long way through a long seed stage process.
The turbine itself is probably a third of the energy efficiency. So you actually have a lower electricity out when you put in.
We do. You're correct that there's a parasitic load that is actually more expensive than a coal plant. Coal plant, 7% parasitic load. Ours is probably 20% parasitic load at an optimum efficiency. However, there's no fuel cost, there's no pollution, and it can run, ultimately becomes a much dramatically better fuel energy value proposition. So we do have to get higher than 2x for electricity. We think we can begin to demonstrate that at a minimum as we approach 4x. And obviously we're aiming at things like 10x. And there's a lot of ways to get there from an engineering perspective. So every X that we go becomes more exciting. I mean, first you just have heat applications, then you get to the electric power. We are aiming squarely at electric power. No question about it.
Great.
For baseload.
Fantastic. Stop sharing screen. And now I will introduce one more company. After that, I'll hand over the floor to our co-founder of Silicon Valley Access PTE, Rachna Dayal, also founder of Sugati Ventures and ex-J&J alum, and she will introduce her portfolio company. So I'm really excited to announce Rijal, another very, very battle-hardened company. We love companies where CVCs have invested in the seed stage because we are a huge evangelist of CVCs investing in seed stage and dispelling the notion that CVCs are only for late stage. So they had LG Tech invest in seed stage and they got a lot of well over 20 million from US government funding. And now I will let Zora tell the remaining part of the story.
Great. Thank you so much, Casey. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Zora. I'm the co-founder and CFO of Rejewel, and our diagnostic platform helps maximize the value of electric vehicles and energy storage batteries. This photo that you're looking at is actually taken at our customer site where our devices are those black boxes in the center and is testing an electric vehicle and a battery pack. So whether the battery is on the road or providing stationary power, our business model is designed to capture the value we create as we scale with our customers. Now that we've validated the market need for BESS, we're raising to accelerate our market adoption and capitalize on the momentum we've already built. Our goal is to convert these early test pilots into long-term service agreements. We have opened a 1.5 million pre-seed where we've closed almost 90% of our target. Car Sales and LG Tech Ventures are two notable investors in this round. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope you will join us in our journey to maximize the value of every battery.
And is Zora the recent extension of SBR, SBTR, is it directly helping you?
We did apply for a DoD SBIR, and we are going to look into some DOT ones. So that is always good. Government funding, especially at the earliest stages, did help us de-risk the technology. But a lot of what we're going for now is really capital to help commercialize or at least test deployments. So in a sense, yes, for sure.
That's great. Great. All right. We'll continue conversation in private. Stop sharing screen. And now we have one other company left. And after that, I'm going to hand over the floor back to Axel, and he will curate anyone who wants to give a verbal pitch. Starting, I recognize one name, Sunil Ravipati, who we have got into San Jose State of assistance, so he's priority. He will give, but they'll all be verbal pitches, starting with Sunil. So now it's my great pleasure to introduce our latest co-founder in Silicon Valley Access PTE. We really love having someone from the medtech background because more than 50% of our work with startups are in health. She was a long-term J&J executive across Europe, Asia, and US before she started Sugati Ventures, this funding market, first-time fundraiser. She's very battle-hardened, raised reasonable amount of fund, and today she's going to introduce one of our portfolio companies who we are going to put on the spot and listen to what they have done with her funding. So my pleasure to introduce Rachna Dayal, tremendous mentor. She managed to attract the AI head of NIH to event we co-hosted for Foundation. I'm on the board at US House of Congress, and that created her reputation in our network. So Rachna, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Casey. That was very kind of you. I think we should all thank a lot of folks at the NIH because they're very humble and they're ready to meet entrepreneurs whenever we want. But hi, everyone. I manage Sugati Ventures, which is a medtech fund. which invests in medical devices primarily and some AI-enabled healthcare platforms. Our thesis is very, very strong in the sense that we've identified certain areas of human health where medical devices are making huge changes. One of the biggest, hardest areas for human health has been tackling infection. And if you look at the journey of infection, early detection, and then once detected, what do you do with it? And then battling infection. If we can manage this, we can save a lot of lives and limbs for human health across the globe. Obviously, this problem is magnified both in certain geographical areas and in certain areas of human health. So if you think about tropical and subtropical countries, you will have the problem of infection even more. But if you think about general surgical activities, specifically in people who are more elderly or immunocompromised systems, the problems show up more often, faster, and they can be more expensive both for costs, but also for life, from a patient perspective. So, we found Kadambari and her startup Trust Health because we were looking to make an impact in the field of infection detection. And then I have another portfolio company that tackles removing infection in surgical implants. But Kadambari is helping them and many others because her startup is actually going to help detect infection earlier and earlier in surgical implants, but also chronic wounds. So not just surgical wounds, but chronic wounds. And there could be many other applications given the technology that she's managing. So the floor is yours, Kadambari.
Can I ask a question a priori?
Of course.
I hear a lot about titanium implants being actually in their oxidative state in the body, causing a lot of the infections later stage infections in the body. Is there anything you will talk about this?
So what happens with metallic implants is that when your body gets infected, any infection, right? You give patients antibiotics to actually deal with those infections, right? And antibiotics only work on human tissue. But in a knee implant, for example, you have the implant that has metal layers, and there could be a gap sometimes between that metal layer and the human tissue. No matter how small the gap is, that gap is enough to build a film of bacteria that cannot be addressed by medication. And this is not trivial because you can't give beyond certain doses or certain number of times for antibiotics to the humans. You can't continue them on antibiotics, specifically if it's not touching the thin film of bacteria on the metallic layer. And so the infections happen and they keep repeating. And once it happens, the only solution left, if you don't detect it early enough in the tissue, it'll spread to other places. And if you think about people who get a lot of these knee implants or hip implants, it's either athletes or majority cases very elderly people. As you age, implants and surgeries for different things become more common. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it is a real issue in metallic implants.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rachna, for the kind introduction, and Axel and Casey for giving me an opportunity. My name is Kadambari Bilwar, CEO of Trust Health. Now, Trust Health is agentic AI platform to predict and early detect complication like surgical site infection. Now, surgical site infection is a big problem. In spite of all the advancement in infection prevention, the statistics from CDC are alarming. Surgical site infection is the most frequent healthcare-acquired infection, costing us a lot today. Now, healthcare today is optimized for patients to be treated at the hospital, and there's a blind spot after discharge. Every week, surgeons save lives, and every week, infection slips through the cracks. Now, imagine you're a patient, and you return home, and you're recovering. After some time, you don't realize that you're getting infected until you land up in an ER with an open infected wound. There is life, there's hospital costs, and reputational risk. And surgical site infections are driving antimicrobial resistance, which is global issue number 1 as of today. Francisco BA. My background has been managing Kaiser and Stanford Children's digital health environment. We have stellar group of advisors, which includes Dr. Sabine, who is who is an advisor for World Health Organization, and Dr. Rina, who's been at Kaiser as well. Now, what we have achieved up till now, we have been selected by Plug and Play as a top medical device firm. We've got our AI Innovation Award through TICON, and we've got access to premier healthcare groups. And we've also raised funds through strategic investments, as well as partnered with Government of India. Our aim is to detect infection early, and no patient should go unnoticed. Thank you so much, everybody.
Great. We are really going to push you with Thai SoCal, our friend Dhawal. He better talk to you on Monday when we are all together in UCSD, and they are very, very well connected with everybody in SoCal, TCA. All Dhawal, do you have any comment how we can push her in SoCal ecosystem?
No, I really enjoyed the presentation, and I look forward to meeting you on Monday. So we'll continue the conversation there.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. All right, Axel, floor is back yours, and let us give opportunity to people wanting to do a verbal pitch. We know one person posted. I don't write on chats because I feel screen will vanish and I'll get logged out of Zoom. But that's my personal feeling. But Sunil, really great to have you around. And please come next Friday to SJSU because you will meet everybody. Vish Mishra, kind of people you will meet in a close curated setting. It's impossible to meet in a normal event. So please mark your calendar and let's hear your update.
Impact. So that's the business generator for us. So right now we are doing is two models of revenue generation. One is the one-time contract based on this how many instances the business has, and the subscription model. So our most recent customers, they use our subscription model, which we charge a base fee of $200 per month. And we do also HIPAA compliance readiness, HITRUST as part of the subscription fees. So yeah, that's our go-to-market, and the huge market size is there.
We will talk about this in more detail next Friday. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Sure. Thank you, Axel.
And I open the floor for the next company that would like to pitch.
About them in a way that, at least at this day and age, right? The pursuit of protecting that class of Americans is really on everybody's hearts at this time.
We will see you on Friday next week.
I will look forward to it.
Okay. Thank you so much for your contribution. And anybody else raising their hand? Nobody else for today? Great. As you heard, those who are in healthcare, we do have an event on Monday in San Diego. Casey and I will do this in conjunction with UCSD, University of San Diego. They have a beautiful facility down at Park and Market. And we have end of next week an event at MLK Library in San Jose that's sponsored by San Jose State University. Otherwise, I have only left over. Have a wonderful weekend coming up. And the way you can reach us, my name is Axel Tillman. My email is axel@pitchglobal.com. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for participating. Thanks, Casey.